Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Seems that odometer stories are popping up in the news more, and one of the reasons is they're so easy to roll back. Now, the trick is it's hard to roll them back without getting caught, and so people are getting caught now, and that pops up in the news. I remember, and I've mentioned before, years ago when I talked about odometers, I'd get comments from people saying, Steve, they don't roll back odometers anymore. It's not something you can do with modern technology. It's actually remarkably easy with modern technology. So the story is sent to me by Shannon and Nicholas, and I'll thank you for this because this story allows me to say the names of some of my favorite places on earth. I'm talking about place names. So the story is out of Shipshewana. Car dealer facing lawsuit for allegedly rolling back odometers from WOWO. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita on Friday announced a lawsuit against a car dealer in LaGrange County. The lawsuit claims that the dealership and its owner rolled back odometers on vehicles sold to at least 43 customers. 43. The dealership is located in Shipshewana. According to the lawsuit, a total of 3 million miles were rolled back on the odometers of the vehicles they know about. And they're curious if there might be more. The company and its owner are accused of violating Indiana's Deceptive Consumer Sales Act, Indiana's Odometer Act, the Federal Odometer Act, and Indiana's Motor Vehicle Unfair Practices Act. You'll notice there's two different odometer statutes at play, which there almost always are, and also two different statutes regarding how consumers are treated. One specifically is a Motor Vehicle Unfair Practices Act, so it's defined with people dealing with motor vehicles. The other one is simply consumer sales, so a consumer transaction. And of course, it'd be modeled on the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which is a model act that many states follow. So you should know that the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Act in general apply to a person dealing with a merchant. You're buying something from a merchant. However, the odometer statute is what's really important here because there's a federal one and a state one. And in Michigan, same thing, federal one, state one. So you go, wait, why would you need two? And well, they parallel each other. So it means that you could, if you wanted to, pick one or the other, or you can go with both. You might say, but Steve, why would you go with both? Can you double dip on damages? Well, not necessarily, but they have different standards and also different penalties. So it might be that your state one offers a better damages remedy than the federal one does. Or it might be that the state one has a lower burden of proof. And there's a bunch of different things that play into that. But that's the point, is that they are usually worth using, both of them. So they will often have different remedies, and they'll often allow you to get your attorney fees back as well. The lawsuit says the vehicles were acquired by the dealer from multiple sources, including an auto auction in Mishawaka, an Indiana auto auction, and an auction in the greater Kalamazoo area. So Kalamazoo is also a fun name to say. Each auction company visually inspects each vehicle's odometer reading and reports it in the disclosure statements provided to this dealership. So this dealership would go to an auction, allegedly, and buy a car. And when they bought the car, the odometer reading was recorded by the auction. So if that car then gets sold to a consumer and it displays a lower number than what was displayed at the auction, it would suggest that there's something untoward going on. And then the question becomes, how would you find this out? And so many people wouldn't find out. That might be how you do this 43 times before you get caught. But we can't speculate about that, can we? According to the suit, the company altered or caused to be altered the odometer of each vehicle prior to selling each vehicle to the respective purchasing consumer. Company also allegedly listed the altered, incorrect mileage of the vehicle on documents such as titles. And so a lot of times, if somebody fills out incorrect information on a title and gives it to a consumer and they sign it and it gets filed with the state, you can, of course, get in trouble for doing that also. And so there is usually a bunch of verbs, and it'll say it is unlawful to alter, roll back, disconnect, and they list all these things you cannot do to an odometer. And they basically cover all their bases. It's impossible to come up with a way that the mileage could have changed, especially by going backwards, while a vehicle is in your possession, and then say, oh, but it happened in some way that's not covered by that statute. Oh, trust me, it is. It is. So the AG's office began an investigation. The documents related to the vehicles were provided by the dealership personnel who verified under oath that the documents provided were true and accurate copies of the ones that were necessary to be filed. Additionally, they provided copies of the odometer disclosure statements that their company had received from the auction companies. But AG's office obtained the same statements directly from the auction companies and found discrepancies in the odometer mileages listed for each vehicle. Now, the implication is there that the documents provided by the dealership had been altered before being turned over to the AG's office. And that might be a problem also. The Attorney General is seeking injunctive relief, restitution for the customers who purchased the vehicles, as well as damages, civil penalties, costs, and other relief. And injunctive relief is where you're asking the court, in essence, to order somebody to either do something or refrain from doing something. Or as I like to say, to do something or not do something. And so the injunctive relief, I suspect, would be a court order saying there are these laws on the books regarding odometers, and you will follow them. And now you say, but Steve, the laws are already on the books. Yeah, but if you get caught and assume that these facts are true for a moment, because they're alleging they are, if you've done this 43 times in disregard of the law, it might help to have a judge say, by the way, we're going to watch you, and don't you do this again. And so at that point, it could be contempt of court or something else. However, damages are often statutory, so the statutes will often say, if this happens to you, here's what you are entitled to. But also civil penalties. And again, these statutes will often say, if it's being brought as an action by the state, civil penalties might be appropriate. And of course, those penalties might be per instance. So if you had a penalty of a certain amount, let's call that X, you then multiply it by 43 if in fact these all turned out to be valid claims, and then your penalty would be 43 times X, whatever that number might be. You can see why that number might climb a bit as we multiply those two numbers together. You didn't know there's going to be math in this video, did you? So the AG said here in Indiana, businesses must know they'll face serious consequences if they betray the trust of Hoosiers in violation of the law. We will hold them accountable, and we will make them pay. So we'll see what happens, but the allegations the dealership rolled back the mileage on at least 43 cars, and they have the documentation to prove it, according to the Attorney General. That's happening in Shipshewana, not far from Mishawaka, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump over from Kalamazoo. And the only town I didn't get to say in this video is Escanaba, because Escanaba is also a fun one to say. That's a town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, nowhere near Mishawaka, Shipshewana, or Kalamazoo, which sounds like it ought to be a Benny Goodman song, right? But it's not. But I actually lived in the southwest corner of the state of Michigan for a little while. And while I was over there, I used to shop all the time at the mall in Mishawaka, which is just a fun name to say, Mishawaka. Go ahead, try it. And Shipshewana wasn't far away, but I never made it down to Shipshewana. I guess Shipshewana is a location of some flea markets, a pretty big flea market kind of thing. Never made it down there, but I would see ads on it for on the television, and they'd say, "Yeah, come on down to the big sale in Shipshewana, not far from Mishawaka, if you're in the Kalamazoo area." So there you go. And my apologies to the people at Escanaba for being left out of this one. But Shannon and Nicholas both sent it to me. Thanks a lot. Car dealer facing lawsuit for allegedly rolling back odometers. Allegations are that he did it 43 times. 43 times. And that's from WOWO, which is also a fun set of call letters. So that's WOWO, Indiana. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The more you have, the more you are occupied. The less you have, the more free you are.